Hello, I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. Today's topic, going backwards. Mm, going backwards, what is that? That's where we see the victim going back to the same types of relationships that are not healthy or even toxic, and why they do it. So, why do they do it? We think to ourselves, wow, why are they going back to those types of relationships? Why are they allowing people to treat them that way? Well, you know what? I'll tell you one main reason why. With my abuse, what did I always do? What was I always pushed to do? That's right. To just take those feelings, all that bad they did, put it in the back of my head as though it never happened. That's right. Just forget about it, just go on, continue with them. Even though it was a toxic, unhealthy relationship. Well, it becomes a pattern. That's why the pattern continues as to why so many victims end up in even more toxic or even abusive relationships. It's because they take all those bad things that really shouldn't have been happening to them, that they didn't deserve, and they forget about them. So they continue to have those relationships. They don't see those bad things. They don't examine. So what did I do differently? What I did differently is that after I came to my realization that I was being abused, and that one person that was my first light made me realize that I didn't deserve that. That those types of things that were being done to me were not right. So, after that, even with that person, every single relationship, I watched like clearly, and I examined every little thing about it. I even went to others and asked them their opinions, and I evaluated it even more based upon that and trying to understand where I went wrong in my relationships. Because, yeah, all of my relationships, I have to say, were not healthy and ended up being toxic or just not good for me and actually brought me down. Your relationship shouldn't be bringing you down to where you feel like you're below them, as though you're less important than them in the relationship. Okay, so I'm not going to name any names of these people, but I'll give examples as to how I started to see patterns within myself when I had made choices as to who I was friends with, who I returned to, and who I stayed friends with, and who I surrounded myself with the most, even after certain things they said or did. Okay, when I was escaping, my first thing I realized I needed to do was I needed to avoid being around my abusers as much as possible. Why is that? Because being around your abusers, especially after coming to your realization just how toxic they are to you and all the bad they've done to you, it's extremely hard. I mean, like I said, all of the bad things my abusers did to me, I just kept back there stored. So when I got off the toxic medications that they had me drugged on since before I was an adult, my cognitive ability was gone. I mean, I didn't have the ability to think, but once I got withdrawn from those toxic medications that I never actually needed, my memories started coming back. I was able to cognitively think and process things. So, guess what? All those bad things, those repressed memories, I didn't believe it myself. But all those repressed memories, they stay there. There's a section in your brain where it goes to, and believe me, they started flowing out. Oh my goodness, it was awful. I mean, the things I started remembering and being able to process things, it was not fun. It was very hard and very stressful. Remembering all those abuse incidents and the bad things that happened. Ouch. So I decided to use that time to really work on myself, even during the time I was trying to escape. I used that to start healing and start to improving who I am as a person to have a better life after I did get out. So, first thing, it'll be related on a relationship with someone. Okay, when I was escaping, I did have money saved up, and I did end up using that to my benefit. That way, I could be away from my abusers and keep myself to where I would do what I needed to do in order to escape. So, now this person, they had said to me one time, they said, "You realize that you're not going to be able to eat out and do all this stuff when you do get out, meaning I won't be able to afford it." Well, duh. Just making that assumption is insulting, especially since I have to say that that same person, goes out themselves quite a bit, actually more than I do, since I've been on my own, and also has their own financial issues. So, anyways, at the time, yeah, I did have spare cash saved up that I saved up for years, and I called it my safety net money for a reason. So during the time I was escaping, yes, I did go out to eat. I did do things, but you know what? I didn't want to be one of those victims that returned. You know what? One reason why many victims do return is because they get so stressed out to the point where they just hit that wall and they crash and they give up and they go back to their abusers. Because there's going to be a time, where you end up having too much on you mentally and you end up crashing. And when you crash, you just give up. So that's what happened to me many times. I would just totally crash. My abusers, just it's the same thing. There was so much abuse till they crash the victim. That's exactly what always ended up happening to me, where people thought I was the one that was. But you know what? With all that abuse, what do you expect? You're going to crash. There's only so much a human can take. Okay, so back to the point. Now, this person saying that to me, what did that bring me back to? My abusers. Exactly. My abusers tried to control or even put me down based upon how I spent my money, what I bought. They tried to control what I bought as to what I deserved to have. Yeah, like I'll use one example. I had bought myself a rowing machine, and my abusers wouldn't were about to make me give it back. My dad went into my bedroom, was looking around to see, like, oh well, I gotta see if she should be allowed to have this, if it's okay with us based upon how her room looks, you know, or what we'll have to get rid of that she already has. That's her property. That's hers actually, in order for us to allow her to have it. Control. That's right. Same with my mother. You know, You know what they tried to say? They said, "Why don't you just give it to your sister?" Oh, I just spent my money on that for my own benefit, but it's I can't have it and have the benefit of having it because my sister is, I spent the money, but what, let her have it, because you know she doesn't have to be controlled, you know. Of course, because she's the assistant to my mother, you know. I mean, they did that to me all the time. They put me down for what I spent my money on, even if it was, shampoo or things I needed. Always, insulted me and degraded me. So, again, that's where I stepped back. I was like, whoa, you know. I even talked to my friend Angela, and she pointed that out. She's like, wait a minute. She's like, she's trying to tell you how you spend your money and putting you down, basically. Uh, No, she said. She said, that's your money. It's your business how you spend it. And from what I'm seeing, you're doing it for good reasons that are actually going to help you and benefit you later on. Don't let people tell you how you spend your money or why. It's none of their business. She's exactly right. I have to say that this one friend is the only friend that has been supportive continuously and has actually given good advice nonstop without judgment for me even coming to them for support. We'll get to that in another example. So, yes, it's my money. You know what? That's where people are judgmental and don't have empathy or understanding. They try to judge based upon what they think in their own personal opinions. But then again, that's where empathy comes in. They're not in your situation. You can never be in another person's situation to really understand exactly why, because there's no way you could be that person. You're over here. This is them. Just even if you were a DV victim, doesn't mean that you understand why, or the reasons why somebody's doing something. A friend will respect you and accept you for why you do things, unless it's really bizarre and not right. Okay, next example. It would be about being a supportive friend and being there for another person. I've had people tell me that, giving me advice, but it's funny that they do the same things themselves that they say that they would never do and that they put down others for. Like, being the bigger person and defending a friend when they're being done wrong. One person would say, yeah, I'm always going to be there. I'm going to do this and that and that. Yet, when that time comes, no. They'll say, oh, well, that person was weak for not doing that for you and da da da. But then, both people who would say that end up doing the same things themselves and not being there to defend you. You know, it's really something to me that somebody will say, well, I'm not a fair weathered friend and I'll listen to your problems and I'll be there for you. That's just how I am. But guess what? Another situation happened with that person who told me that, they ended up, a couple times saying that they need a break from me, you know, because I was having problems, as though my problems were not important. They saw them as being petty. But you know what? That same person told me, personal problems about their own that was important to them. That's where empathy comes in. Even though I myself don't understand why that would be bothersome or stressful, or bring them down, I still saw that as important because you know what? I'm not that person. I don't, maybe I wouldn't feel that way, but they do. And if I'm a good person and respectful of who they are as a person, I can accept that and understand that it is important to them. In a relationship, it should be equal, you know, not one way or the other. I've never told that person, well, I need a break from you because your problems are stressing me out. Right there, that's that's really, self-centered because I don't take other people's problems that they talk to me about as though they're my own. It's actually that person that is having those problems, not you, you know. So, those types of people I don't want in my life. It's okay for them to come to you when they need somebody and talk to you about things that bother them, but then, you know, the opposite. They don't want nothing to do with you. Exactly, fair weathered friend. So, where did that bring back to my abuse? Okay, that would be my sister. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I don't want to go backwards because that would be going back to my abuse. So, when I would talk to my sister, she would ramble on for hours and hours about problems that I myself wouldn't find important. She would complain about this, that's stressing her out. But you know what? I listened. I didn't criticize, judge, or degrade her for having those feelings. Even if I myself didn't see them as, important. I understood that they were important to her and that they stressed her out. So, what happened when I would talk to her about my problems? Oh my goodness. Even the smallest amount, if I had any smallest amount of problems that were really bothering me, she would degrade me for having those feelings and tell me that my problems are nothing and not important and that she doesn't want to hear it. That's right. That's how she would treat me. I never did that to her. What's another thing that she did that was similar to that person saying that they need a break a couple times? Ooh, that's my sister right there. My sister, she would actually, there's, one time she actually told me, she says, when I called her up to talk to her, and even before I even got to say anything, she said, "Make it quick." Exactly. That's basically the same as somebody, telling me I need a break from you. You know, or my sister, she would actually tell me numerous times, I'll call you back. Instead of talking to me, she would say, "Oh, I'm busy. I'll call you back." She never called me back. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many times she told me that, but she never called me back. You know, and that's where I went wrong, is that I continued reaching out to her to have that relationship that I thought was good, but it really wasn't, because I would just forget those bad things that she did to me, and I would still continue to act like they didn't happen. That's the same thing with this friendship, except like I said, this time I'm evaluating every step I take, and I see that that's not right. Even my friend, again, my friend Angela was like, "Wow, they actually, you know, texted you to tell you that they need a break from you? Like, what the heck?" Yeah, I'm not going back. I mean, I know that's happened in the past, and I've dealt with that with my own abuser in real life, and I can't do that to myself. That's where I'm stopping myself. Yes, it's hard, because, you know, just like with my father, I'm going to value those good things always of when he was good to me, even though I know he's here. Just like I said with, Unshorn Wizard. He was my light. He did help me see things. He was good to me at one time, even though he turned to this. Same with those people that did this, but did this after. I could separate the two. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, I was even told that by quite a few people. Sure, keep the good memories, but always remember where they are in your life at that time. And that's also with boundaries and protecting yourself. That's self protection. And I kept that throughout those relationships. So, where's another thing where a person had done something that's basically the same as my abusers? Well, this person had quite a few times made me out like I was a burden. Like they offered to help by helping me save money. That way, when I did get out, I would still have extra money just in case. Well, sure, they offered to do it, but then they wanted money after offering to do it as a favor to help me save money. Yeah. I was fine with that. That's fine, because I don't want to be seen as a burden. But what did that remind me of? That reminded me of my abusers. Because even though in the end, with that same person, I had done things for them, out of appreciation and because I cared about them as a friend and was appreciative of having them as a friend. But you know what? With me, the difference when a person does it from the heart is that they don't keep a list of all the things that they did for that person. They don't think, well, I did this, that, and that, and that. Because that's really not how friendship should be. That's almost like you're getting, it's a job, that's materialistic. That'd be like you might as well just pay that friend to be your friend, like, pay them a certain amount of money, a monthly or weekly, for being your friend based upon the things that they do for you. You know, if a person keeps a list of things that they do for you, that's not really a friend. You know, the things I hold sentimental, like money, are the things that they did good for me. Like with like Unshorn Wizard, I'll use the name. The things that he did good for me really affected my life in a positive way, even now. Those things that he did. Even though in the end, he did probably the most hurtful thing. I can't even think of anybody hurting me that much with so many different things in such a short amount of time. I mean, it's still unbelievable to me, but yeah, it was extremely hurtful. So how did that relate to my abuse in real life as for the checklist as to what they've done? My abusers did the same thing. They always made me feel like a burden, even before I was an adult. Even for things like me having epilepsy, all three of them made me feel guilty, because, they had to take extra time to care for me, even taking me to the doctors. They'd always make me feel guilty that they had to do that extra stuff for me because of my special needs of having epilepsy. They even used my disability against me to add other things to make me out like I was, crazy. Like, oh, she's mentally, you know, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. And many people believed it, because that's where discrimination against special needs comes in. It was easy to believe just because I had epilepsy that, oh yeah, she must have a mental illness and this and that. It's very easy to believe just because of that. Just like many people misunderstand mental illness to mental incompetency, or even disabilities, having special needs to being mentally incompetent. There was people that actually believed when I just only told them I have epilepsy, that believed that my abusers were my POA. Yeah, real idiots, I tell you right now. You know, there's a difference between what I have and being mentally incompetent. I mean, that even people in the mental health profession actually thought that, and lawyers. Oh my goodness, people are, that's called mentally incompetent to me. Well, I would say incompetent and ignorant to actually think that way and not realize the difference between the two. So, yes, that reminded me of my abusers, and that's going back, because they always kept tabs of everything they did for me, and they threw it back in my face. Like, yeah, you're a burden. You don't do nothing for us. We're always doing for you. With all the good that I did for them, just like the same with that, friend in real life, I did for them, but I never threw it back in their face like, I did that for you. So I'm a better friend than you are. I did more for you. It's not about how much you did for that person. It's about how that person stood in your life, as in the word respect, and how much you both cared for each other. That's where the word care gets really messed up. You know, if you're going to keep tabs about what somebody has done for you and all that stuff, or who did more, you know, that's not really care. There's no point of that relationship. There's no respect in it. So, just like with the bullying incident, which is what I'm still going on too, and gonna have another, you know, partakes as to that in topics, I don't want to go back into that situation. Just like I had stated in another, topic video. I don't want to go back to being that person. I want to see somebody in the mirror that I respect and I'm proud of. So that also can be as to where my boundaries are, as to not wanting to be with people who are just like the people in my past, my abusers, and the things they did to me that are actually abusive. Even my friend Angela had pointed that out, that those behaviors are toxic and not healthy and not right. And I really examined that. So that's where my friend Angela, I thank her for, is because I really looked at that and I realized, yeah, that's exactly what my abusers did to me and their abuse tactics on me. I don't want that. I don't need that. You know, if I'm going to move forward, I'm going to have to examine everything. And that's one reason, like I said, victims, they fall back because, we're always told to just forget about it, just like a person saying, that you come to them for about your problems and whatever, just get over it. That's the same thing. Just get over it. Well, you know what? People need time to heal. You should evaluate things that you've went through that caused you stress or any kind of mental down or anything, any emotional. You should always examine it. I'm finding that extremely important because if you don't examine things, you're going to keep going back to it. You're just going to put it back there. But you know what? All that stuff back there is going to stay there. Whether you like it or not, you probably think, oh, it's gone now. It hit the highway. That's not true. Just like me coming to my realization of my abuse and me getting my ability to think again, all those bad abuse and all those bad memories all came out. And it's a lot harder when you have to deal with a whole bunch of stuff that you shoved back there. So the more you shove back there, that's the same as continuing relationships in unhealthy relationships that are with people that are actually not good for you or even toxic, because it's just going to continue and you're just going to keep shoving it. But you know what? If you stay in, the longer you stay in that relationship, all those bad things that they did and continue to do over and over again, it's going to be so much harder to deal with when it finally does come out and explodes. That's right. So it's always good to examine it and always keep your boundaries and examine things. So that way, when you do end up leaving that and cutting that relationship and doing what you should do, which is cut that toxic, unhealthy relationship, or keep your boundaries more strict, keep them further apart, away from you, and realize that they can do that again. Just like I realized that those, you know, other situations with those same people could actually happen again. And believe it, they did. They had, you know. So I actually caught that. I was like, yep, they ended up doing it again. Because you know what? It didn't hurt me as much as it did, the first time. But I actually evaluated it, and that's why. That it didn't affect me that badly. The last person I trusted happened to be unshorn, I'll say wizard. And that's where I was like, whoa, I need to slow down, because if this person, the one person I had trusted the most out of everybody in my life and actually looked up to the most and actually thought was really a great person, like I said, they could be me in real life, and sheep, as in sheep dress. You know, that's why, I've seen a lot of things that were alike, in maybe not the same story, like I said, but yes. So, revictimization, patterns of the victims, why they continue to be in unhealthy relationships. That's one huge reason why. Because we're always told that we should just forget about it and move on and just hurry up and get all that pain and just forget it happened. That's not actually a good idea. Even in the mental health field, they try to push you, like, don't be angry, don't feel this. It's not good for you. You know what? Have your feelings. We're human. Have those feelings. Evaluate those feelings. That's what you need to do. You need to really evaluate them. Go through those feelings, evaluate it, instead of shoving everything back and tossing all those bad things that happened to you as though they didn't. Think about those things in your relationships. Keep them there and deal with them there. Don't throw them back there, because if you keep on doing that, it's going to come out so much worse, and it's going to be so much harder to deal with those when they all come at once, because you're going to have to deal with a ton of stuff all at once. And believe me, that was extremely hard and painful and caused me so much more pain and stress than you can ever imagine. Oh my goodness. So, patterns for victims. There's a huge reason why they continue the pattern and stay in that abusive relationship and continue to have other relationships that are also toxic and unhealthy for them numerous times, even after leaving that abuse situation and that abuser or abusers in my case, or even during the time they're with them, and still having more like that. That's a huge reason why. Going back. It's not good to go back, as I just explained. Going back is not good. I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. See you next time.